Hey guys, you'll have to let me know if you can hear me. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Great to be here with you all on a Friday or a Saturday, depending upon where you are. You'll have to let me know how the sound is. You'll have to let me know if you can hear me. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Great to be here with you all on a Friday or a Saturday, depending upon where you are. Talk to you guys. You'll have to let me know how the sound is. You'll have to let me know if you can hear me. Hear me. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hey Kylie. Great to be here with you all on a Friday or a Saturday, depending on where you are. Welcome. Talk to you guys. You'll have to let me know how the sound is. You'll have to let me know if you can hear me. Hear me. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hey Kylie. Great to be here with you all on a Friday or a Saturday, depending on where you are. Welcome to you guys. You'll have to let me know how the sound is. You'll have to let me know if you can hear me. Sounds muffled. Welcome, welcome. Okay, thank you, MJ. And thank you, Donna. I really appreciate that. To you guys. You have to let me know how. Let's see if I can correct that. Um, how about now? Hey, flower. Okay. I just made an adjustment. You'll have to let me know how it is now. Yeah. Okay. Hopefully that adjustment helped some. Frygeist225 says, yes, it's better. Flower says better. Kylie says, there we go. Okay. MJX, David Guetta, and Donna Wong, thank you so much. Oh my gosh, so great to be with you guys. Okay, so I wanted to pop in and provide some extended insights to this Gemini new moon and just thank everyone who participated in the poll for, just what and letting me know in the comments what you thought of the new format. Um, if you've been with me for a while, you know that these kind of deep dives are something that, I've always done. It's kind of been the way this channel started. And this is something that for me, I'm ready to shift up. I'm being guided to shift and change it, to move into some other directions when it comes to the way that I'm working to provide content in some new ways. So, just to as an experiment, I did offer the last lunar update I provided, I think was the Taurus new moons about a month ago. I provided a all signs, all 12 signs. And so many of you commented underneath that, like, hey, this is cool, but I really enjoy the format where it's this much deeper dive with lots of rich detail and insights. I want to know about all the asteroids and everything else happening. It would be great if you can include that. And enough people had said it. And I do appreciate that when I ask for feedback that you guys take the time to respond. I did read all the comments. So enough people said it. So I said, okay, so the next lunation I'm going to do, I will provide that extended deep dive in addition to the all signs so that way you guys can have the best of both worlds. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to provide that extended deep dive in our conversation today. But before we get started, I wanted to say welcome. Thank you guys for all of the watches, shares, and subscribing that you do. It helps tremendously that you can find me again when you want to if you're subscribed and you hit that notification bell so that you don't miss any of the updates when they come out. And secondarily, if you're willing to hit that thumbs up button, it absolutely helps the content circulate and would be a huge favor for me given the way the algorithm works. Okay. So I have a poll. I have three polls. I want some opinions from you guys. And if you're catching the replay, the poll will be closed, but you'll be able to see everyone who was live, the way that they voted. But you can also leave me a comment and let me know your thoughts on the three questions that I'm going to ask. The first question has to do with the all signs and the extended energies. I am curious which one I should do first. Should I do the all signs first? Should I do the extended energies first? I'm really curious which one is going to be the best. Let me just go over to the YouTube channel and see if I can create a poll there. And you can let me know here while we're chatting. It's a pretty, and I'm curious also, just generally speaking, if you don't care about that, you can let me know here. What's your experience with this Gemini new moon? As I looked at the extended aspects, I was like, oh, this one could be kind of heavy for some people. Um, I'm curious if this was heavy, if this was light, if there were some abrupt endings. There's definitely a reason why for that, and we're going to talk about all of that in a moment. Okay, there we go. There we go. All right, so there's the poll. And if you would share your thoughts about that, that would be amazing. And yeah, okay. So Flower says life has been rough, but I'm blessed. And let's see, David says first time here. I listened to the new moon video you did while I did my new moon ritual last night. Awesome, David. I'm really glad you got to do a new moon ritual and welcome. Great to have you here on the channel. Martha says she likes the all signs and it was definitely heavy. That was Flower. Martha says I had a really intense conversation with my counterpart on Wednesday. Christine says, for me, this is way too social. Yeah, Gemini is a very social energy. It's the most social energy of all of the signs. And we see a large Gemini stellium here that includes Jupiter and Mercury, Mercury being the governing planet. We also see the moon, the sun, which constitutes a new moon when they're together, and we see Venus. And so, with so much of our personal energy in one sign, the energy of that sign becomes very dominant in our lives. And so, the energy of Gemini is very communication forward, it is thoughtful, it's explorative, inquisitive, it is curious. And so, lots of opportunities to experience all aspects of Gemini energy in our lives. Sheila says she likes the extended, then the all signs. Donna says the experience was heavy with a lot of new information and clarity. Yeah, that's absolutely right. It was supposed to bring a lot of new information and personal clarity. And so we're going to talk a bit more about that in a moment, but I wanted to give you guys a chance to really tune into that poll and provide some extra details and insights. Uh, let's see. Freigeist says this moon was definitely heavy for me, but very clear and in a beautiful way. A dynamic got very clear. I'm yet to confront. Yeah, I could see that, Freigeist. There's a lot going on with, let me just take a look. We're going to talk about it in a moment. There's a lot going on with Mars and Chiron at this new moon up here in Aries. Now, neither one of them make a direct aspect to the new moon, but the combination of Mars, which is our motivation and our ambition, our drive, and our kind of action steps, and Chiron, which is where we can feel really wounded. These two coming together, linked by in the middle here, we have a luminary called Eris, which moves very, very, very slow. The Eris energy can unfold a lot of personal interior resentment that has been building up over time. You combine that with any woundedness, and then you've got, well, what am I actually motivated toward? Alongside many of these other planetary energies we're going to talk about, you do get this sense of, oh, I am clear what I am no longer doing. Like I'm just no. This is a new moon in which your yes and your no have the potential to become very, very clear. Amber Kelly says she would like to do and see the extended and then the all signs. Kylie says she's waiting to quit her job. Oh, good luck, sweets. I hear that this kind of aching for change energy is definitely in the air. Nadine's feedback is extended and twin flame together. It makes so much more sense and it feels a lot deeper together. Thank you, Nadine. I appreciate that feedback. David says, yeah, I did get some intense clarity the day before the new moon. Right on. Hope says new personal revelations over the last weekend. Yeah, lots of revelations. And we're going to talk about that with this Uranus, Jupiter, Mercury conjunction. This would have been revelation upon revelation upon revelation, like insight, 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 light bulb, light bulb, light bulb for many people. This has been an energy that's been building for some time. Jupiter Uranus conjunction peaked in May and it was coming together all of April. And so that would have fostered significant levels of shifting for many people internally, as Taurus is the sign that governs our self worth, self value, and self esteem. But then when Mercury joined the mix, it would have moved from instinct to insight, where you might have felt the change brewing inside of you, but not really understood what it was until Mercury joined in the last 2 weeks and said, this is what this change means, and gave you some conscious awareness of all of it. Okay. Cope also says she's tapping deeper into clearing quickly certain fear related energies and old patterns of thinking. Right on. Very good, Hope. You're right in sync with this energy. And much of that has to do with the way Pluto, which specifically deals with fear versus power, is in communication with this Jupiter, Mercury, Uranus conversation here. And I'm going to dig a little deeper in that in a moment. Okay, Janice, yes, I'm live. Welcome. Great to have you. Chiron is at 20 degrees Aries. I'm a Gemini sun. It has been a resentful spring. Yeah, I could see that. For anyone who's got a personal placement here in the late degrees of Aries, sun, moon, rising in those last 10 degrees of Aries, or the maybe even your own Mars or your Pluto, since Mars is the governing sign of or governing planet of Aries and is about your motivation, and Pluto is about your personal power. Well, I don't know if there's anyone with Pluto in Aries that's alive right now. But yeah, if you have Mars here, maybe even Mercury here, your consciousness, with this configuration unfolding, that sense of like feeling thwarted, feeling hindered, blocked, feeling undermined even by forces outside of yourself, this would have come into some heavy recognition in the last 9 weeks as we did Mercury's movement through these three signs, bringing illumination and clarity. Mars coming into its home sign and meeting up with Chiron. The interesting thing about this is where Eris and Chiron are concerned, there's always significant mirroring. And so, if you felt like there's some sort of thwarting coming from outside of you, the question a new moon like this begs us to ask is, where have I been a willing participant in this structure in my life? Where have I not spoken up or engaged or gave the benefit of the doubt or gave people a pass to treat me the way that they have treated me? And so this configuration here and Pluto as well, because Pluto again is about power. And we've got a square from Pluto to this configuration, which we're going to get more deeply into, really speaks to this unfoldment of time to switch it up. Like, I can't continue to operate the way I've been operating. This is not working. It is not working for me. It is indulging the worst in you. I really have to shift. And whether that means we close out the dynamic and find a new way to interact and relate, or we can't find a new way to interact and relate, and we have to close out the relationship at this time. This is the new moon in which this new moon, the last full moon, the new moon in Taurus, actually, really kind of ever since the new moon, sorry, the full moon in Virgo during Pisces season, from there to now, there would have been a lot of recognition. Ooh, 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 I cannot continue to interact in the way that I have been interacting. This is not serving anybody. So, well identified there, Janice. Haley says, I hope I'm clearing quickly too. I'm getting clearer on a current overall intention. Very good. And that was one of the intuitive messages that came through with this new moon, that it's for many people, clarity is emerging. It hasn't emerged and is already here. It's in the process of coalescing. And so, if you do not know the answer to the question, here's what I want, that's okay. Get comfortable, hunker down, settle in with the unknowns, and give yourself space to look for, what are my breadcrumbs? And that's Gemini, famous for working in a stepwise fashion as opposed to all at once, clear vision, landing at a destination. That's the opposite energy, Sagittarius. Rather than doing that, really give yourself permission to take it step by step. Okay, well, that doesn't work. I don't know what will, but I know that doesn't. So I'm going to close out that and try. And that's another keyword for Gemini, a willingness to try this, explore that. So very good, Haley, right on. Soul sister, what does it mean to have reverse south nodal return? It confuses me. I can't answer personal questions like that in a forum like this, soul sister. I would need to do that during a personal reading, which you're more than welcome to book on my website. There's probably some really interesting energy going on for you at this Gemini new moon, since Gemini governs your seventh house. Martha, yes, there's been tons of mirroring in my connection lately. Kylie says she's got the Aries sun, Gem moon. One of my family members has that too. And yeah, life is and lifing. Janice Phillips, lucky you, Kylie, my gem sun. Okay, so some more details about personal charts. Fry Guy says, what you say feels so spot on. Holy moly. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So, thank you for sharing what your experiences have been. And if you're listening to the replay, this is another opportunity for feedback since I'm working on evolving the format that we're working with on this channel. The feedback opportunity is here. Here is, do you like hearing people's lived experience and then seeing it reflected back in the astrology before we get into the full extended aspects? Because if so, we can keep that. I love to talk about it and really make the correlations because I feel like it makes your understanding of what you're going through and then the astrology more personalized. But I also recognize that for some people, they're like, just get to the meat. Okay. Just get to the point. Okay. So let's just see what's going on with the poll that I created. So if you're just joining, welcome. If you're having a good time, please hit that thumbs up button. The question was, do you want the all signs first or the extended energies first at each new and full moon? And the poll is now at 59% for extended energies first and all signs second, 41%. Okay, great. And if you have further thoughts on that, you're listening to the recording, feel free to share. And here we go. I'm going to make the second poll for you guys to join in one before I go through the next. Okay, so let me type this out. Should we do the all sign live or the extended live or no lives? I know some of you really like the live component. Some of you are like, you interacting with people in conversation takes away from some of my learning. For others of you, it enhances your learning. So I'm going to give you the opportunity. Like I said, I'm in a moment of switching up the way I do the content here. If you got feedback, I'm asking for it. Now is the time to share. All extended energies live, add option, no lives. Just record and post. Okay, start poll. Cool. All right. So David says, I have to say the thing that most intrigued me about listening to yesterday's video was the tie between twin flames. You'll have to tell me what you mean there. Janice says, tell me you're a homebody without telling me you're a homebody, Kylie. Uh, Natalie says, Jupiter in Gemini has freed me. Sun is conjunct precisely with my natal Chiron. The Cazimi was conjunct. It's been trippy. I like it though, but need to simplify and let go and clear out clutter, figuratively and literally. Right on. Good for you, Natalie. Really happy that you've been able to get that, first of all, personal clarity that you need to declutter, because it always takes static out of our lives when we do that. And then secondarily, gives you the permission to be able to exactly what I was just saying, know what you want. Okay, so that brings me into this new moon's extended aspects. So, just as a quick recap, or maybe you're listening for the first time, you have not yet had a chance to listen to the all signs in which I gave the usual long form version of the meaning of this new moon. I'm going to give you a recap version rather than the long form. If you want the full meaning, have a listen to that all signs. Here with this Gemini new moon, it's right here. We've got the new moon, sun and moon, and Venus at the 16th degree of Gemini. So we have a conjunction there. We've got a trine to Chariklo. Chariklo brings blessings in of a different format to something we may have lost. We've got a square to Saturn, so that 90-degree angle from Saturn and Nessus conjunct in Pisces. That's bringing some spiritual structure to the conversation. We also have a square to Juno at the 11th degree here of Virgo. And so this is what this constitutes a T square, two planetary bodies in opposition, with the third acting as a fulcrum point. T squares can create a significant amount of tension. Tension energy means there can be difficulty with knowing the path or the decisions and the choice. And it can feel like the choices, it can feel like you have no good choices because maybe one of them you don't like the way it feels, and the other one it's a problem in terms of execution. It's like I would do that, but it's just more complicated. And so, what we do with T squares in order to figure out what is the right answer for us personally as divine creator beings incarnate with that divine spark of light inside us, the stardust inside us, we move to the sign that has occupation from no planetary energy that's part of the same mode. So in the mutable mode, we get Pisces, we get Gemini, we get Virgo, we have Sagittarius. There's no planetary body at that 16th degree of Sag. And this is just a marking for Earth, which I talk about in some of my manifestation courses. But yeah, there's none of the other stars here living at Sagittarius. So when we, with our divine spark, occupy Sagittarian energies, that's how we get out of the tension of the T square. And so, in occupying Sagittarian energies, what we want to do is lean into truth, vision, awareness of the final destination. We want to lean into clarity as much as we can find, even if we don't like our answers at this new moon. Truth. What is the absolute truth? The vulnerable truth, the uncomfortable truth in the circumstances we're living through at this time. And then lastly, we also want to lean into faith. Sagittarius is the sign that governs our capacity to believe in a higher power, whether you call it God or Allah or higher self. It's up to you. I'm not here to judge your faith path, but recognizing that there is some divine orchestration at work on your behalf is what's really going to allow you to take the appropriate risks to move through this Gemini new moon energy in a way that allows you to get access to the light side of this energy, because there's a lot of shadow energies that can unfold. And I'm going to bring you into those in a moment. Okay. I did mention that there were some intuitive messages that came in with this Gemini new moon. So I'm going to give you the short form of that now. Deep dive in the all signs. This new moon is giving us permission to know what we want and explore the options. Number one. Number two, know what we don't want. And number three, know that it's okay to not know the answer. But then number four, know the difference between not knowing and not wanting to know. Like, ooh, this is an inconvenient truth. I would rather this were not true for me, right? Okay. The most prominent aspect of this new moon, like I said, is that Venusian conjunction. And it opens up a new cycle pertaining to everything we value in beauty, money, and love, because those are the things that Venus represents. There's also lots of new friendship energy available as monad structures have been in the process of disassembling and reassembling to help us navigate this pivotal time in Earth's years. New love is here for some. For others, this is new work and career opportunities. Check your sun, moon, and rising in the all signs video to figure out which one it's going to be for you. For some people, it's going to be both. And then this square from Nessus and Saturn conjunct together up there in Pisces opens an opportunity for stabilizing this newness because that's what Saturn brings to the table. It brings structure, continuity, follow through, boundaries. Because this is a squaring aspect, 90 degrees, a little bit of tension, some challenge. It's going to take a willingness to stay grounded and be clear with what do we want and take any opportunity to explore it with an open mind and a calm heart. Open mind is the light side of Gemini. Okay. Now, and calm heart is that light side of Pisces. Also, like I said, get Juno down here. There's a T square. Solution is in Sagittarius. The answer is in leaning into truth, clarity, vision. And that can clean up any shadow side of Gemini that can unfold, such as overthinking. Okay. Like I said in the introduction to the all signs, great opportunity for your money to improve by either asking for a raise or putting yourself out there, depending upon whether or not you work for yourself or you work for someone else. And now we're going to get into some of the other placements here. Okay, so I'm going to highlight these and then we'll talk about them. So Mercury conjunct Jupiter here, not featured at this new moon, but certainly not conjunct the new moon or aspecting the new moon, but certainly featured, certainly a significant conversation in the sky. And we also get these two are also in a relevant square to Juno. They are in a trine to Pluto. Pluto's power, Juno is relationships. We've got a sextile to Neptune. It's about our spiritual connection. We've got a conjunction to Uranus with these two right next door. It's a waning conjunction, but it's there. It's all about illumination, quantum leaps, sextile to Vesta here in Cancer. So we've got some emotional investment and commitment on the line, and in opposition to Pallas. Pallas is the defender. She's all about protection. Okay. So really, really interesting placements here as we are looking at this. And if you're just joining, welcome. If the content is hitting and you've been here, please like and subscribe. And know that if you need some support navigating this, you can always find me at kmoonastro.com to book a reading. Link is below the video. Now, with this Jupiter Mercury conjunction, this is insight, 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 communication, 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 and more communication. For some of you, this is going to be very mental and just a conversation with yourself. For some of you, this is going to be very interactional and needing to have requisite conversations with people that you have been deeply connected to via partnership. Supervisors or bosses are indicated, friends, siblings, cousins and neighbors, classmates are also indicated, people you're learning and growing with. Now, for some of us, because this can be internal, Jupiter expands whatever he touches, and Mercury here is all about the thoughts and the communications. There can be excessive thinking going on or excessive talking without saying very much, just a lot of venting going on, which I would really caution against in this energy. There's a lot of still very hyper creative, hyper conductive energy for manifestation, given the proximity between Jupiter and Uranus. We're always creating through our thoughts and words, but this is expedited communication through thoughts and words with Jupiter and Uranus conjunct. As a result of this, if you're spending a lot of time venting or letting off steam or airing out, your closet so that you can continue to cope in a situation that does not serve you, trust me, you're just going to get more of the situation that does not serve you via that behavioral activity. The highest use of this Jupiter, Mercury, Uranus conjunction here is going to be to daydream, explore, communicate, talk about what could be possible if you went in another direction, made some different choices. In order to do that, you're going to have to be able to suspend some of the disbelief, particularly pertaining to this Chiron Eris Mars configuration that we were just talking about, that opens up a significant level of self-doubt where you have been in a rut around feeling either stuck, trapped, or like people or situations are never going to change. This new moon in Gemini, additional energy, Uranus, Jupiter, Mercury, are giving you permission to start to say, well, what if I changed? What could be possible in my circumstance? If I changed the way I show up, the way I think, what I ask for, what I do and don't do, my boundaries around my time, my boundaries around my availability, my boundaries around communication. Instead of picking up the phone at all hours of the night, maybe I shut the phone off at 9, right? Instead of being available to somebody toxic, maybe I say, it's time we conclude our interactions, right? These kinds of, if I change, the circumstance can change. What if possibility thinkings can really assist us all in moving on to and solidifying a timeline that will be more aligned with the higher self that's trying to be birthed at this time. Okay. Now, there is some indication that is coming. I think one of the members of the chat had mentioned, yeah, I feel like the clarity is coming in, but there's no movement yet. That's okay. As Mars makes his way into Taurus and then gets closer to where the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction was over here at the 22nd degree of Taurus, you're going to see movement be almost instinctual and unavoidable. Like you're just going to start to do it. Now, I wouldn't say wait for that if you already have clarity. You already have clarity about what needs to be done to palace, protect your time, and get out of toxic interactions. Juno, restructure in Virgo your partnerships in a way that is appropriate for your current levels of commitment and dedication. Discernment is needed. Pluto, amplify and utilize, own your power in the situation. If you are already having insight related to these things about your circumstance, do not wait for Mars to get there. Act now. Because the faster you act, especially with Cheroklo in the mix, and she's heavily featured in some other aspects, I'm going to talk about her in a moment. The faster you act, the faster there's blessing for you in this. You get reward. The longer you wait, the harder it's going to be to access the reward energy. And it's just going to be realignment, no cherry on top. But acting in this energy does give you realignment plus cherry on top. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to be easy. In fact, this energy really speaks to getting pushed, shoved, poked, prodded, agitated, and catalyzed well outside of our comfort zone, especially in partnerships and collaborations, but also in our communities and learning environments. As that happens, yes, it's going to be a little awkward, a little weird. You may speak your truth with your voice shaking, make your create make your requests while also crapping your pants. That's okay. Let it be a little weird and awkward. That's actually one of the gifts of Gemini energy is that it does have the ability to do a both and powerful, which Pluto is indicated, and also afraid. Powerful and also awkward. So give yourself that space to be all of the wonderful, wild, full spectrum of you that God created you to be under the light of this new moon. That's going to give you the space to lean into the creative potential of this without needing to live in perfection in order to harness it. Perfect isn't required. Presence in your own life, that is. Okay. So lots of dialogue, as I mentioned, in partnership with the Juno square. There's a powerful mental focus with the Pluto component, a deep drive to figure out what happens next and how to make it happen. There's also an energy with the Plutonian component of deep thinking going on. And there's a difference between deep thinking and overthinking. I really want to be clear about that, especially because both Pluto and Uranus are interacting with this Mercury. Overthinking is spinning in circles round and round on the same thoughts. Deep thinking is when you take a step back from that circular loop or that circuitous conversation and you start to ask the question instead of why are we doing this? How do we do something different? Skip why, go for how under this energy. Okay? That's gonna be what reconnects you to this Plutonian power and gets you out of Pluto's shadow, fear, shame, and anger. Or not, anger's not a shadow, but like rage. Okay. Now, the Neptunian energy gives us an element of the spiritual high road being available since Neptune is in its home sign and in sextile. We do get an opportunity to take the spiritual high road here or to see the higher spiritual perspective on the current unfoldments. And that's beautiful because I love the sextile because it doesn't wash away clarity. It enhances it by giving us access to a bit of neutrality. And sometimes when emotions run high, neutrality is really critical to be able to figure out what are the solutions? What can I explore in terms of getting to a solution? Again, skip why. You don't need to know why. You probably already know why. You've been in circles around why. Move on to asking the question, how? How do I get to the next step, the resolved place, my aligned path? Start daydreaming and experimenting with how, and the neutrality brought in by Neptune will expand your capacity to see solutions that previously you might have overlooked. Okay. The conjunction to Uranus, like some people mentioned as we were exploring the energies at the beginning of this conversation, This conjunction to Uranus and Taurus brings illumination, insight, a lot of randomness, surprises, chaos. For some of you, it'll be chaotic thinking or chaotic conversations and interactions. We also may see some about faces in this energy, as we're going to see in a moment. There's room for a lot of potential outbursts, not naming any names, but there have been both some actors, entertainers, and politicians who have had some outbursts lately or revealed maybe some of their interior thinking about certain things, only to then have to either walk it back because of some fact checks or walk it back because it was just out of tune with people who work with and support them. Okay. So just be mindful as well that everything happening in your head isn't always something that needs to come out of your mouth. Now, for some of you, the inverse is true. There's too much happening in your head. You need to let some things come out of your mouth. With Uranus, we get extremes. And again, because this is Gemini and we're talking about the Jupiter, Mercury, ruler of Gemini, conjunction to Uranus, we're going either one could be true. Tighten up that lip or open up that mouth because closed mouths don't get fed. You'll know which camp you fall in. And if you need some help with that, again, you know where to find me. I'm over at K Moon Astro. Your chart holds a lot of your God-given blueprint for this lifetime. So give yourself some space and freedom and permission to explore it if you truly feel like you're stuck or in a rut. We have that sextile to Vesta and Cancer, which indicates that there is some level of emotional commitment and investment on the line in terms of finding solutions. And this is, I like Vesta in this position during this particular full moon. Or sorry, new moon. I especially like seeing her opposite Pluto in this way because that Vesta Plutonian connection is what's holding our fingers to the fire in terms of recognizing the emotions that are signaling, hey, 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 living like this doesn't work. Maybe you start to think about some new solutions here because we are uncomfortable. That Vesta really has kind of our, like I said, our fingers to the fire in terms of making appropriate change. And in sextile to Jupiter, Mercury here, and in trine to Neptune here, there's a lot of room for exploration in a space of divine neutrality. Again, we'd have to lay off some catastrophizing, which is one extreme of this energy, or fantasizing, which is the other extreme of this energy, so that we can come out of the emotional kind of like dopamine and serotonin roller coaster and get to a place of being able to see with some wisdom and some truth. Again, highlighting that Sagittarian energy. That's the solution if tension has come up. Okay. And like I said, we've got this opposition of both the Jupiter Mercury conjunction to Pallas here and Uranus opposite Pallas as well. That Pallas opposition, Pallas specifically deals with protection. And so that Pallas opposition is bringing forward in a like protection, divine protection when it comes to what we're seeing unfold at this time. We may even find that there can be, and I think this is going to be a good thing, a little bit of defensiveness in this energy. For especially for those of you who are walking into this time frame, these first 2 weeks of June, recognizing, I've been a real doormat in this situation. If that's your circumstance, some of you know that like I'm just never the doormat. I never let myself be in that situation. So the defensiveness is not the interpretation for you. I'm going to give you your interpretation in a minute. But for those of you who have that recognition, like I take way too much stuff off of way too many people, and you feel the need to kind of cocoon, close off, wall off, shut down, block out. This Pallas opposition is what's really going to allow you to see, especially because we have a grand trine between Pallas, Vesta, Neptune, all in water signs. It's going to allow you to clock the emotions of recognizing something's got to give. I can't keep living this way. Here's what I need to shift in the way I think about myself and my interactions with people so that I can have a connection that's where there's room, not just for the other people, but also for me. Okay. Now, with this palace opposition, for those of you who are just never the doormat, this is when you may find that now is the time that you feel guided to take a step up in terms of really creating and curating your world, especially when it comes to your resources and your mental bandwidth. Okay. So being more intentional about where you spend your time with this Gemini energy. I think somebody had mentioned that they felt that this time period was way too social. It can be that for sure. But this palace energy is saying if you're already recognizing that every time you get a text or an email or a call, you pick up the phone, or last minute somebody says, "Hey, we're all meeting up here," and you're like out the door before you can brush your teeth correctly. This right here is saying, "Hey, hey, 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 slow it down. Maybe we need to transform that Scorpio, the way we protect ourselves and our time, so that we have more space for what's truly of value for us." Okay. So those are the two interpretations there. Um, so I'm going to pause. We have two more kind of big configurations to move through. The next thing I'm going to talk about is this Mars Chiron situation here. And then we're going to close out talking about the overarching energy of Uranus here, because Uranus has been coloring a lot of the tumultuousness of 2024. And so we are going to talk about why that is, how long it lasts, what to expect, and how to navigate that energy in just a moment. I'm curious how what I have shared has resonated for you guys. Have a let me know in the comments about that Jupiter Mercury conjunction and if you're seeing some of those pieces play out. Thank you guys for who participated in our poll. The question was, should I do more live content? Either the all signs, should I do it live, or should I do the extended energies live, or no lives, just record and post? Some of you are going to be listening to the recording. Please let me know in the comments what your preference is. I see here those of you who have joined me live have decided amongst yourselves that you prefer the all signs to be live with extended energies not being live, recorded, and then posted. Interesting. Okay. Very interesting. Okay, so let's just see here in the comments what you guys are experiencing. Um, let's see. Red Chariot says they feel called out. Well, welcome. Welcome to the new moon in Gemini party. Gemini is good for nothing if not mirroring for show. Really love it. Okay. Thank you, Kylie, for posting the links. I really appreciate that. Um, let's see. Bridget says this feels so right on. Okay. Fry Guy says this was so cool, like a superpower. Cool. Jess B says do everything live. Okay. Flower says she's definitely been called to speak out more and protect her boundaries. Fry Guy says, I really like the live content because you really connect with the community It is such an important part, especially when energy is happening, and I really appreciate it. You're so welcome. Martha, her moon is in Gemini and overloading her brain. Absolutely. It can be for those of you who have like the Gemini 12th house or significant Gemini placements, having such a strong Gemini stellium go on right now can really feel overwhelming. So give yourself as much kind of nervous system regulation support, somatic support as you can to be able to make sense of all of this, because otherwise it can show up and feel a lot like static in your brain with no real truth or messages coming in. It can just feel like frenetic energy. Okay, cool. Okay. Cute little lamb says social energy is extra. The month of May depleted me. Yeah. Kylie got notification her boss cut her hours. Yeah, so there could be some recognition around like, okay, time for me to do something different. B. McAvery, McAvery, my fiance is on edge and just had a big argument. We're now in separation. North Node Gemini. Yeah, lots of changes unfolding. Let's talk about the next energy here. Let me go back to my notes. If you're just joining, welcome. Great to have you. I'm in the middle of a revamp on this channel of some of the content and figuring out which direction I want to take it. And feedback is welcome. There's a lot of questions and polls littered throughout this live broadcast, and you're welcome to re-listen and drop your answers to those questions inside the comment section. Thank you guys for helping me recreate and rebirth my next step. I really appreciate that. Okay, so now we're going to get into why, for some of you, this new moon felt so heavy. So here we have Mars, Eris, and Chiron in conjunction between the 22nd and 28th degree of Aries there. This energy right here can feel a bit like a pity party, built up resentment, and some lashing out. It can even lead to a bit of some what they call like the passive aggression in people, where they're not saying what they think or what they want or what they need. They're just acting out in ways that seem incongruous to what they've paid lip service to. And so, as a result of that, this Chiron, which is all about the wounding, specifically in Aries, we're talking about rejection, abandonment wounds. We got Eris here, who's an energy that specifically speaks to resentment and retaliation. And then we have Mars here, which is outward projected motion, action, and behaviors, drive. When these three come into alignment, you get a lot more of the shadow side of Mars. So in neutrality, Mars in and of itself is our motivation. It's our motivator. It's our movement maker. Mars shows us what where we are driven toward in this lifetime and what we're driven toward. In the light, Mars gets us ambition, drive, passion. But in the shadow, and this is really all people you ever really hear astrologers talk about with Mars, you get war, aggression, anger, rage, that kind of thing. All planetary energies have light and shadow, not just one. So it's important with each one that we look at them from their neutrality and the light and shadow. When they convene with other heavenly bodies, depending upon the angle, they can, their light or their shadow can be enhanced. And so Mars convening with Chiron, which is starts the journey about that woundedness before it moves into the light and the leadership. Eris, which is very specifically about that energy of protest, righteous riot, The two of them can really bring out more of the Martian shadow energy, which is less about passion and drive and ambition, and much more about that, anger and acting out rage, that kind of energy. And like I said, anger is not necessarily a shadow energy. It's actually a useful energy that helps us understand where our power is. But in this energy, anger can very rapidly spiral into aggression and rage. And it doesn't have to. And the reason why it can go so quickly is because we have this opposition to the creation goddess at the 0 degree mark of Scorpio. So this is all about creation, but sitting in the sign that deals with our fears. So a lot of worst case scenario reactionary behavior can come up here. We also have that square to Vesta. So again, a conversation about emotional commitment. We've got a square to Pluto in Aquarius here. And this brings us into recognizing fear and where fear is causing us to land in some of this worst case scenario reactionary behaviors. Then we also have a square to Ceres in Capricorn because this configuration sits right in between these degrees and really speaks most loudly to Ceres. And Ceres wants to close out cycles. The sextile to Chariklo, which again is blessing energy, but it can be very hard to access at the sextile angle. And it can be hard to access with such heavy emotional kind of looping and negativity that can be unfolding. This creation goddess aspect can have us enhancing some of our destructive tendency and acting out, like that cutting off the nose to spite the face. And so you may find yourself in a circumstance now or see people around you in a circumstance where like they just feel pushed to the brink. And then you start to see, again, like I said, passive aggressive behaviors, lip service. Oh, yeah, I want to be a part. I want to help. I want to be involved. Behavior, nowhere to be found. Nowhere. The investment is not there. When you're seeing this in the people around you or from yourself, what we can recognize and take from this energy is that there's some level of a need that is going unmet when it comes to being able to fully participate. And it's going to be up to us, those of you who are listening and recognizing this in yourself or recognizing this in somebody else, depending upon your bandwidth. It's going to be up to us who have this conscious level, higher level awareness to go, what is the unmet need that has me or them acting in this way where there's complete misalignment between words and actions? What need do they have that, or do I have that is undermining the ability to have constructive leadership in this circumstance, constructive conversation, constructive interaction. With the Chiron component, much of this is probably going to be about acknowledgement of a self and an identity, acknowledgement of who a person is or who you are. One of the interesting, I'll just share from my own personal life, experiences that I have had in the last 30 days was that I was working in my life as a container, maybe something like a 6 ounce cup in my interactions with people. I had 6 ounces of bandwidth, 6 ounces of capacity, 6 ounces of energy, 6 ounces of focus, and I had a 6 ounce cup. So my cup was really full. In a lot of my interactions with people, I was quite satisfied, quite fulfilled. However, in the last 30 days, it has become clear to me that I have moved from like a 6 ounce cup to an 18-ounce cup. And those 6 ounces, they ain't cutting it no more. And so at first, I was experiencing a lot of resentment and frustration and sense of abandonment and rejection with certain people in my world, certain dynamics, only to realize, okay, they're doing what they've always done. They have not changed. You've changed. You've grown. So don't get mad at them because they're clocking in and doing, what they need to do for their 6 ounces to be maintained with you. Have a look in the mirror and make some appropriate adjustments around your requests and what you want and what you need with people so that you're capable of, instead of having a 6 ounce cup, 6 ounces of fulfillment and an 18-ounce capacity, you can move up and get up here to greater fulfillment and capacity, not just with them, but also with yourself. There's some holes and gaps that I became aware of that I need to fill in my own life for my own fulfillment. And only in doing that do I also carve out the capacity for other people to recognize, yeah, the way we interact is going to have to change. So, this, again, I mentioned this as we were talking through, people's personal experiences of this new moon. This new moon is opening up some clarification. If you've got resentment you're experiencing in this energy or a sense of feeling put upon, and like I mentioned, pity party, lashing out, this is where, because Gemini governs mirrors, it's the sign of the twin. At this new moon, you have the capacity to look within and see for yourself, where have I been a participant? And how can I change my Mars behaviors and actions to begin to carve out a new way of interacting with people via owning more of my power, even if my voice quakes and my knees shake? That's Pluto in the interaction. Closing out certain cycles, that's Ceres in the interaction, and certain structures. Ceres in Capricorn is all about structures. And where can I stay emotionally committed and invested to myself in the process so that I get that emotional congruence? That's Vesta in Cancer in this situation. Now, because this is all squares and oppositions, I gotta be honest, this is not, it does not look smooth or easy. It looks like it comes with a significant degree of challenge, but the first challenge, the first piece of mastery is in the self-mastery and self-control, taking real ownership of you and where you have arrived at, because Mars is in the sign of the self, that's Aries, where you have arrived at that has provided the illumination and clarity about what needs to shift, not taking the fact that it needs to shift out on other people, but instead getting that emotional self control, utilizing those emotions as messages for clarity about where the change needs to be. That's creation goddess, the alchemy, so that you can move into the next chapter and cycle with greater mastery. And this is how we get out of the shadow side of this Chiron, which is all about the abandonment and the rejection, and climb into the light, which is about the leadership. Chances are, if in my situation, I'm operating in this 6 ounce cup and moved from 6 to 18 ounces, in this last stretch of time in my life with the revelation unfolding now, chances are many of the people I have been surrounded by are also, again, mirrors, being 6 ounces themselves in 18-ounce circumstances or capacity and feeling for themselves potentially slightly unfulfilled. And so a little bit of compassion and a lot of leadership is going to go a long way in terms of getting out of some of the heaviness of this Gemini new moon. Okay. Very cool. Um, so there's that. We're going to talk about Uranus and then we're going to close out. Here is Uranus making some interesting aspects. I'd love to know your thoughts about that Mars Chiron conjunction and how it's showing up, if not in your own life. What are you seeing in the lives of people around you with that Mars, Eris, Chiron energy there? Are you noticing this like kind of pity party, resentment, passive aggressive, or just shut down and withdrawal energy happening with people around you or in yourself? Let me know. I'd be curious to see what you guys are noticing. Okay. Now, um, we're going to talk about Uranus in a moment. I just want to check in with these comments here, and then we'll close out. If you're just joining, welcome. Great to have you. If you've heard something so far that resonates, I'm going to invite you to give this video a thumbs up for the algorithm and subscribe if you're new, if this is resonating. And then if you're recognizing like, oh yeah, this is just like the planets and my own life seem to be team too much. They're just doing way too much. I could really use some support and clarity. You can find me over at kmoonastro.com. We can look at your chart, where this energy progresses from here. A 30-minute reading is enough if you want to look at one or two kind of situations. But if you are in a situation where you need like a total life kind of 360, give yourself the benefit of an hour if you can. And that way we'll have the opportunity to see the themes across all areas of life. Okay. Um, let's see. Kylie says, hang in there, Geminis. Yeah, I'm going to extend that and say, hang in there, all of us. Cute little lambs. It seems like transformation and transition is up for many of us. That's correct. I would agree with that, especially because of the role Uranus has played all year long and the aspects that Uranus is making. After looking at many of the full and new moons for the remainder of the year, you're going to hear me continue to talk about the Uranian power for catalytic change because Uranus is a key player in many of the new and full moons at the end of this year. And Uranus is not small. Uranus doesn't want to do subtle change. It can be bombastic, abrupt, shocking, skipping steps. It can seem nonlinear and non-sequential. It wants to up level, but it's going to do it literally almost overnight. And so as a result of that, this year is a year of tremendous breakthrough, but for some people, it's going to come with some breakdown first. Not all, but for some. B. McAvery says spot on. Mars is in Scorp, but I'm triggering people by just existing, it seems. Wow. You are describing the energy between my fiance and I now. Hopefully it does get better for you guys, like truly. Same for you, B. McAvery. What if you feel so positively contracted to the situation that it wouldn't feel right to do something differently? You know, Guys, I always say before over anything that I can say, trust your intuition. And over anything any reader ever tells you, your internal compass and your personal contract with God, with these stars, with your higher self. I mean, God made these stars. You and God really decided when you come in, this is what you're going to do. This is how you're going to do it. This is who you're going to do it with. Conscious mind isn't always brought into the situation, but you're going to feel what you need to do with some real truth at this time. And whether or not that's to get to a specific destination in the third dimension or simply a new level of consciousness, your guidance system is already built with the clarity about what your next step is. So truly trust it. Flower says, my sister and dad both are in a pity party, shut down, feel sorry for me attitude. Both are Scorpio. Kylie says she's seen lots of spitefulness, so I've been cleansing a lot. Very smart move, Kylie. Anything you can do to detox and cleanse your energy after hanging out with people where there's been a flurry of spiteful communication, resentful gossip, glee in other people's demise. It's a really good idea to detox and cleanse after those interactions so that that frequency isn't still running in your vibrational system as an active creative force. Carmen says, ding, ding, ding. All true mirrors in the last stuffs from the end thoughts. I'm confirming. Sag, rough cut, but still rare diamond souls. Good. Okay, guys, let's talk about Uranus and the aspects Uranus is making. If you're just joining, welcome. Had a couple of polls. You can let me know here in the comments while we're live, or you can let me know. In the comment section. Should we do the all sign or the extended live or no lives? Just record the content and post is one question I've asked everyone. Second question I asked everyone is which do you prefer first? You prefer the extended energies, which we're doing today for each lunation to come out first before with come out first, or do you prefer the all signs energy to be published first on this channel? Let me know. Let's talk about Uranus. Okay, so with Uranus, because this energy is so catalytic and it demands change, it's really critical to understand that when change happens, we are officially leaving one dimension, one realm, one identity in our lives and moving to the next one. And so, by design and default, the very people, situations, circumstances that have been the container for hosting our beingness at one level and in one dimension, those containers and tethers do close when we go to the next. So for some people, there is a dissolution of identity here. I gotta be honest, we're dealing with Taurus, which is the sign of self-worth, self-esteem, self-valuing, and even compensation in the world, payment, money. Many people may, as Uranus is making its way through the final degrees of Taurus, if you've been holding on, and Uranus has made a lot of different aspects over it's from 2020 until now, some really significant aspects that have like been a portal, you could say, to your next chapter. In these final degrees, this portal widens and the kind of sucking sensation that whooshes you into the next dimension gets stronger. And so, for anyone who's managed to maintain, sustain, and hold on, looking at you, Aquarius, Scorpio, Leo, and Taurus are fixed signs. For those of you who have done your hardest, worked your hardest to maintain the status quo, as we move into these final 6 degrees of Taurus this year, next year, you're going to find that your ability to maintain where it is at is going to diminish because Uranus demands change. And so the Uranian energy at this lunation is compounding a lot of the closure energy in preparation for some new birth and new life that will happen as Uranus gets into Gemini as we get into 2027. But the closures have to happen for the new beginning. If I've got a fist full of coins, it's going to be really hard to grab with that same fist a fistful of dollar bills. To get the new, you have to let go of the old. And so, for those of you who've been holding on significantly, This is where you're going to find these types of energies are ripping the old out of your hands. It's going to feel abrupt. It may feel shocking, even though the writing has been on the wall for some time. You may also find that for those of you who have been in sync with it and evolving this whole time, you're just moving very rapidly into the next iteration if you've been taking this step by step. Okay. So, new opening and some closures unfolding. There are closures and completions truly being guided by spirit as we're all being moved across life's game board, because this Uranus has a trine to Ceres, a sextile to Saturn here in Pisces. Saturn will close things out when they are not aligned to highest self, best self, truest self, God designed self. Where you are not being that version of you, Saturn will call a hard timeout in any interactions with the people or the circumstances that are asking you to be less you in order to be connected to them. And so we've seen this unfolding a lot in the, I would say, since 2020, really, but it has been even stronger in the last year. Now we see this Saturn moving into sextile format with Uranus, a little bit of a gentler timeout, timeout nonetheless, because Ceres is here. She's put the writings on the wall and she is saying, season closed. And you may find certain seasons in your life close a little bit abruptly because Uranus moves so fast. With this, we're specifically looking at things related to work and money. Capricorn, where Ceres sits, deals with the structure of our work lives, industry, and business. We are also seeing Taurus, who deals with money and value, where Uranus sits, collide because Uranus and Ceres are in these two signs, collide closures of work and money circumstances in our lives. Okay. So I want to be clear if there's anything that's unfolding at this time that seems like a catastrophe because it's a sudden loss of income or a sudden loss of a job, understand that it's actually not a catastrophe. These energies are actually working to benefit and upgrade you if you can stand back and look at this from the picture of divine neutrality, because the Saturnian influence has been letting us know, hey, something's not aligned, likely for some time. And now that Saturn's locking into that sextile with Uranus, you're getting that gentle off ramp, either from an industry or a job or a specific role in a specific company, so that you can move into where you're meant to be next. Pluto here in trine to that Uranus for all of us collectively. Pluto is a heavy hitter, comes with a lot of endings. Pluto represents the resurrection cycle, and we love to live in the rebirth, but we hate to face the ending, the death. And the beginning of any Plutonian cycle is always death and ending, completion, period on sentence. Face your ending, whatever it is. For many of us, it has a lot to do with work because Pluto just came out of the sign that deals with work after having spent 14 years there. Whether it's time to retire, time to go back to school and get a degree so you can go into a new industry, time to wrap up working in one industry so that you can capitalize on the career you've already invested in and move into the next industry. Change, I got to be honest, it's never comfortable. The design of the human being is to stay in the comfort zone. This season is going to be uncomfortable because it is full of change. It is not your enemy. It is truly trying to get you to that resurrected next step, next season, next chapter in your life. Okay. We also have a square to Chariclo here in Aquarius. Okay. And so Chericlo's story is one where it acts as a divine intercessor. In the mythology, she acted as the handmaiden to one of these goddesses of Mount Olympus. And she waited on this goddess faithfully, hand and foot, during her years of service. However, uh, there was a day when the goddess went to the river to take a bath. It was known among everyone who was in contact with these gods from Mount Olympus that you were not meant to look upon them with the naked eye. It could blind you. It would blind you. Across the river, just as the goddess was disrobing and Chericlo was holding the clothes, I imagine. Across the river, a fisherman looks up and sees the naked goddess and is immediately struck blind. As it turns out, the fisherman is Chericlo's son. Her son is a hunter for a living. He can't hunt without his eyes. In the mythology, Chericlo then intercedes on her son's behalf, begging and pleading this goddess, restore my son's sight. He can do nothing as a hunter without being able to see. Through her begging and pleading, the goddess said, I will not restore your son's sight with his eyes. However, I will give him the ability for divine sight. And through divine sight, her son shifted what he was doing and became a seer and was able to then provide the divine sight, insight, and wisdom to people psychically in his life after that, making a living in a new way. And so Chericlo, as the divine intercessor, in interaction with Uranus, the divine change maker, who's also under the influence of Pluto, the divine ender. The combination is talking about if you let something go at this time or something let go of you, through your faith, prayer, and petition, indeed you will get something better back. But you can only do so when you give up the fight for the thing that is trying to depart. Let it go. It's time. Okay. Now, we also have this trine to Lilith down here in Virgo, speaking to that Uranus as well. And Lilith is all about really having a demand on our participation in circumstances where it seems like other people are receiving benefit. Lilith places a demand that she gets to have that as well. Unlike Eris, who will retaliate when not permitted to enjoy the festivities, Lilith here will say, fine, stay in your sandbox. I'll go find my own sandbox, and will storm off and go do her own thing. Lilithian energy enshrined to this Uranian change that's unfolding with lots of this closure energy is saying, understand that again, where you are feeling in any circumstance where your needs are not met, you have looked at the receipts and you have decided, I don't want to play anymore. It does not serve me to be involved. It's unbalanced. It is unfair. And I have to be less of myself to participate. There's Saturn with that integrity theme again. This combination that includes Lilith is saying, it's all right to walk away, where you have given it 110%. What you getting back is 14% from other people. Put it down. It's okay to walk away. And if for reasons of misalignment, a job, a relationship, a community has put you down and said, your 110% is just not a match for where this community is headed, let it go. There is a better sandbox for you to play in. And that is the benefit of this Uranian energy. It's really moving, picking us all up like chess pieces and moving us to our next destination on life's game board. Okay. So that's this energy for the Gemini new moon. Thank you guys for listening, watching, sharing, subscribing. Please give the video a thumbs up. And if you're at a crossroads and you can't seem to figure out what is the right next step, in particular in work or in a relationship, where is the open door? Because I'm seeing a lot of closed doors. Now's the time to book a reading. You can find me over at kmoonastro.com. Those are the only two questions. A half an hour is all you really need. Like I said, if you want to look holistically at your life because you're in a holistic transformation, give yourself the benefit of an hour and we'll be able to take a deep dive, not just into the open doors, but the lessons, why certain things are completing, and what your action steps are for getting into your next chapter. I'm going to stop here and jump back into our comment section briefly just to get a sense of where you guys are at and how this resonated for you. Let me know if there are any questions, and then we'll close out. Thank you guys for being here. Let's see. Duck says, I had an encounter with a narcissistic cousin who draw literally a line on my ground to mark his area without showing the truth to me. So I stood up and he felt seen, but I was calm for the first time. Very nice. Very nice. Good for standing up for yourself. Martha, calling out the fixed signs. Listen, we all have fixed energy in different areas of our chart that govern different sectors of our life. We all have a house that Scorpio governs, a house that Taurus, the opposite sign, governs, a house that Aquarius governs, and a house that Leo governs. In those areas of our life, all of us can be very fixed. And when you have luminary placements, personality aspects, the planets in those fixed signs in particular, or those fixed signs on the angles, the rising, the midheaven. It can be in particular a season of feeling like things are getting taken, and that's not what's happening. You're getting elevated. Okay. Let's see. Fry Guy says, I think this was so helpful. Really glad to hear that. Thank you. I am yet still to confront, but let's see. That's the beauty of living. Isn't it crazy that we exist right now at the same time? Totally, right? I agree. Significant and from my heart and straight from the heavens, blessings on you guys. It has been an honor and a pleasure to play with you today. Again, please let me know in the comment section the answer to those poll questions. I am in the middle of revamping the way I do some content on this channel. I have an idea of where I want to go, what I want to do, but I recognize that I only exist because you guys exist. There was something in your energy, in your spirit that said, I need guidance like this in some format or fashion. And it was the collective calling that brought what I do into being. And so if you've got thoughts about how you want to see this go, holla back. I'm open to the suggestions at this time. Typically, I have such a strong connection with kind of source and where I'm supposed to be and when I'm supposed to be there. But I'm just curious in what you're asking aligns with what source is guiding me to do, and how I can have the coalescence and the overlap. Thanks for the hearts, guys. I really appreciate it. If you're new, this is your first time kicking it with me, welcome. Love it. I am looking at doing, there was an all signs published just yesterday for this Gemini new moon. The Capricorn new moon is coming up. So far, the audience here that's live with me said they'd like to see the general energy update first, with the extended energies and then an all signs after that. So, as of right now, that's what I'm planning to do. But if you've got strong feelings in the other direction, just let me know. Happy to figure out what can work for people who actually tune into the content. Okay. Hooray. Fry Guy says, what about podcasts? I'm interested. I'm curious about that. I'm not sure yet. I'm kind of trying to figure out just, where would the audience come from for my podcast? Yeah, like, because that would require me to figure out some other mechanisms for marketing that I'm currently not engaged in to drive traffic to podcast content. Whereas the algorithm here on YouTube serves the content up in and of itself because it doesn't get paid unless we're getting paid as creators. And so it's incentivized to place my content in front of people who are watching like content in a way that podcast platforms require a lot of payment from the creator and on to drive traffic to it. Okay. So I don't know. I'd be curious. If you have a podcast platform or podcast ideas, drop them in the comments for me. I'd be open to it. Just trying to make sure that I leverage my time in a way that reaches the most available people without creating excessive work, which I am so good at doing for myself, and I'd like to stop doing that. Um, Kylie says, any signs of public anarchy on the way due to the recession or economy? Um, you know, in the shadow, some of the energies could lean that way, Kylie. Um, I'm very intentionally selective about how I interpret the energies, Kylie, because I recognize that we are all very powerful creator beings here. Um, and they don't the signs that I'm seeing and the symbols that I'm seeing don't have to play out in a World War III anarchy kind of way. They don't have to do that at all. They could go in a completely different direction. But when a person in a position such as mine places the idea in people's head that they could potentially either lose everything they have, or the world could collapse around them, or we're doomed to a set or a fixed timeline of derision and destruction. Unfortunately, that can be highly creative as it marinates in the minds of the 26,000 other divine creators incarnate who are subscribed to this channel. So like I said, I'm selective about how I share, the way I'm interpreting the energies, because my personal desire and wish for all of us is that we get to experience the highest possible timeline. Beautiful question, though. Is it there? Yeah. Does it have to go that way? No, it absolutely does not. So, um, yeah, I am intentional about giving you guys the highest possible timeline available with this energy so that people can stay empowered with this. Okay. Um, Fry Guy says something like the team we needed without knowing. I'm not sure I understand Freigeist, but okay, you may need to clarify for me. But yeah, it's a great question. Any other questions before we close out? Anything else anyone wants to ask? No? Okay. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. I'm going to get to work on the Capricorn full moon energies so that I can get those out the door much earlier for you guys. Big blessings, so much love for each of you. I really appreciate that you guys are here. Thanks for every like, comment, subscribe, and share. It truly means a lot to me and allows me to do